Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 5 of the NFL and to Pepe's Parlay. Pepe Manueli here, r- you know, leading the discussion for week 5. Recapping week 4, we'll start off there. Another exciting week, lots going on. The big story in the NFL the last couple of weeks, definitely the injuries. I'm wearing my Miami Dolphins helmet cap, and wearing my 49ers jersey. Two teams that were very deeply affected by injuries going into week 5. We'll be talking all about that. But just a quick reminder of what we're doing here at Pepe's Parlay. I'm going to give you my Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night football picks, which will be teasers. It's kind of like the format that I'm following. And then we'll play the early slate, Sunday early slate. We pick 3 teams for a parlay, and then we pick 3 additional teams for the late slate. Typically, we have 3 or 4 games to pick from, so we pick. If we have 4, we can usually pick 3 games. We pick a winner against the spread, and we try to parlay that. 1 unit for us represents $100, so that's kind of like my guideline for you guys. Of course, a unit could be $1 for you, it could be $1,000 for you, whatever it happens to be. And we're going to be tracking the wins and the losses, the good, the bad, and the ugly here. We're going to be completely transparent. And so far, going into week 5, we've had winning weeks in 3 of the first 4 weeks. So pretty happy about that. We've hit 1 parlay on Pepe's Parlay, which helps us put us over the top. And that's about right. Parlays are tough, right? So they pay roughly 6-1 if we're not money lining, if we're just playing the spread. But we've done exceptionally well with the teasers. So seriously considering renaming the show Pepe's Teasers, but it doesn't have the same ring at the end of the day. So without further ado, let's pull up our trusty, rusty spreadsheet here, and we're going to go through week 5 of the NFL. First off, we'll do a recap of week 4. Just a quick reminder, Thursday Night Football, we had Seattle and the over in a teaser. We had 2 parlays on Sunday, Washington, Tampa, Panthers on the early slate, Colts, Raiders, and KC in the afternoon. And then the Sunday Night Football teaser was the Cowboys in the over. Very, very exciting game against Green Bay. And then, of course, my Miami Dolphins, who finally got on the board. We had Miami in the over at home. So let's see how we did. The big news here, Seattle, in a victory on Thursday Night Football, gave us a perfect 4-0. We are a perfect 4-0 on Thursday Night Football teasers. I'll also go through with you the AI picks. So this is the one game that I picked that I also run ChatGPT and Grok, and I ask them who they think is going to win and what the final score is going to be with some kind of background, and then I give my prediction on the final score. So it's basically Pepe versus the GPTs. So far, we've been pretty well aligned on every game, and both the AI models and Pepe GPT are a perfect 4-0, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Our 2 teasers, or sorry, our 2 parlays. Washington, Tampa, and the Panthers. We went 0-3 on that one. Just a series of errors, and Tampa got off to a terribly slow start. Washington sucked the hind tit. Panthers got absolutely destroyed. So we were nowhere close. Sometimes you come close on a parlay. You hit 2 of 3 legs, and you're like, what could have been? Not in this one. So anyway, we went 0-3. It is what it is. The late pick, this one was a heartbreaker on a number of fronts. The Colts, Adonis Mitchell, had a great pass from Danny Dimes, walking to the end zone, nobody behind him, switches the ball from his left to his right, and wants to raise the Lady Liberty shot, and of course fumbles the ball at the 2-yard line. The ball goes through the end zone and ends up being a touchback. And that was the difference in that game. And then the Raiders had a blocked field goal attempt, so they could have won. KC won easily, a team that we're going to be riding. I think the momentum is shifting in KC's favor. They're a very good team. So 0 for 2 on the parlays. Definitely on the right side on the afternoon. So, a lot of learnings there. Sometimes you need to get a break. The one parlay that we did get some breaks that came our way. That's just the way it works. The teasers, and the reason we've been so successful on the teasers is it gives us a larger margin of error. And so speaking of the teasers, the Cowboys ended up covering, and the over hit easily. We had 80 points in that game, and tying the Green Bay Packers at 40. So the division rivalries, anytime we're given more than a touchdown, we'll talk a little bit about that today. You jump on that. And then I had Miami in the over at home. I expected a big game from the offense. Tua was on, actually. And a couple of surprises. Waller, former tight end superstar from the Raiders, came out of retirement, first game back, gets 2 passing touchdowns, which is quite promising for my Fins. But that being said, Miami did lose Tyreek Hill. They lost, one of the best wide receivers in the league, top 3 at least, maybe top 5, depending on how you rate some folks. But Tyreek was doing really, really well. Really gruesome injury, actually. I saw that live. It was like, oh my God, that looked way worse than it was. But Tyreek dislocated his knee, and his knee was basically like, you could see something was off. The bottom part of his leg was in this, going in a different direction than the top part of his leg. Not a sight you'd like to see. Tore everything, ACLs, MCLs, you name it, had surgery, gone for the rest of the season. So, tough break for you folks who have Tyreek. I actually have Waddle in my fantasy football. So he becomes WR1. And then Waller, I picked up Waller before he started playing. I just liked the way Miami used tight ends last year with guys like Gesicki. I knew that Waller was going to have an impact, could not predict that he was going to have 2 touchdowns. So he becomes an immediate, huge red zone threat. Obviously, the injury threat is considerable. The guy's got a history of injuries, but not to take anything away from him. Nice win by Miami. Tua was on. The Jets kind of gave us 3 turnovers as well. That kind of helps. So they're really, really bad. But Miami hits the over, and the teaser hits for us as well. So that put us at plus 400 for the week. So plus 4 units, depending on what your unit count is. And we are now plus 900 for the season for those of you who have been following my picks. So plus 900 for the season. Congrats to everybody. Let's see if we can keep it going. So let's actually talk a little bit about the ChatGPT pick on Thursday night. This was the first pick actually that like I said, we're 4-0 now, and the GPTs, Grok and ChatGPT, are also 4-0. ChatGPT nailed the score. So we had a 23-20 prediction from ChatGPT. Grok had Seattle at 24-20. I had Seattle at 27-17, but we were all there. We were all at Seattle in the over. I thought it'd be a bigger spread without James Conner. And Arizona really missed having that running back. They lost another running back, actually. DeMarcado now becomes the number 1 running back for Arizona going into this week. Losing your top 2 running backs if you're Arizona really, really sucks. But shout out to ChatGPT for nailing the pick, 23-20. And we are 4-0 now on Thursday night football teasers. So let's go to week 5. But before, this is the current NFL rankings for week 5. This is updated. So just from a consistency perspective, what I'm going to do moving forward is have the USA Today rankings. I mean, the NFL posts them, Yahoo posts them. There's a whole bunch of them out there that you can pick from. But the NFL rankings by USA Today, just for consistency perspective, not too many changes in the top 5. Eagles, Bills, Rams, Packers, and the Lions. And actually, Packers were fifth. That's a little typo there on the left-hand side. Lions move into the top five. You know, they kind of go back and forth with Tampa. I kind of like Tampa. They're on that cusp. But do I agree with this or disagree with this? I think the Bills have been more consistent than the Eagles. The Eagles did not have a single passing yard last week against Tampa in the second half. Think about that. Not a single passing yard, and they still won the game. Built up a huge lead in the first half, but that is absolutely incredible. You can say that's incredible in a good way. Ball control, they were able to run the clock down. I think they hung on for dear life. That's a flag. Like even if you're up, you should be able to make a few passes. The Bills continue to roll. A little bit concerned about their defense, but their defense is going to get better, as they get healthier. So keep an eye on the Bills. And I wouldn't be surprised if they jump to the number one spot soon in the next week or two. The Rams are up there at number 3, playing tonight. A very, very impressive win against the Colts. Although they could have, should have, would have lost that game if Adonis Mitchell doesn't fumble the ball at the 2-yard line. And then you got your Packers and your Lions. Lions are like an offensive juggernaut. They keep posting points. Doesn't matter who they play. Their defense is a little bit, iffy, but what a fun team to watch, right? When the Lions are playing, that you're going to see some points posted up there. Our bottom 5, don't know how much I agree with all of them. I mean, you got the Browns at 26. They continue to be consistently a top 4, top 5 defense in the league, despite everything. Obviously, their problem is on the offensive side of the ball. My Finns, the reason they stayed here with USA Today, the justification was hard for them to recover from losing Tyreek Hill. So this offense is going to look very, very different. That being said, I personally like Waller's addition at the tight end position. Waddle will become so you have Waddle and Waller, who become your number 1, 2 offensive targets, and then you've got one of the best running backs in the NFL with HN, who's playing really, really good. The defense played a lot better against the Jets. It is the Jets, right? I'll put that into perspective. And then speaking of the Jets, they slipped to the 30th position. They've lost some close games, 1-possession games, but way too many mistakes, like really dumb penalties, bad turnovers. They basically handed the game to the Finns, and they climbed down to the 30th position. The Saints and the Titans swapped positions. Basically the Saints fought and played a decent game against the Bills, so that earned them a spot up over the cellar. And then the Titans, their own young rookie quarterback, can basically call the Titans ass. When your own quarterback calls your team ass, you must be ass, right? So the Titans are in last place in the NFL this week. And you're going to see the Saints and the Titans. We talked about this. They're going to go back and forth. They're both bad teams. Spencer Rattler, though, with the Saints, I wouldn't be surprised if they'll squeeze a win out here. Like gutsy performer, great backup quarterback is his future, in my opinion. So let's move on to Thursday Night Football. I've got my Niners jersey on. Man, like the story for the Niners last year was the amount of injuries that they had, which was unfortunate. And part of the reason that this team was built to win the Super Bowl, the injuries just got to them. And CMC was probably the biggest loss that they had. He's the only guy who's healthy now. Like the Niners are going to be playing tonight against the Rams without Brock Purdy. Mac Jones is going to have the ball again. The undefeated Mac Jones, I might add. They're going to have the ball without. Mac Jones is going to have like 3 wide receivers who haven't ever started. We got no Jenkins. You got no Ayuku, who's obviously on a pup. No Kittle, and no Ricky Pearsall. Like he was a late scratch. So you're going to have a huge dependence on CMC. And I actually think Brian Robinson is going to get a lot of attention, a lot of snaps just to offset. But If you look at the script for this game, you know, the line when the injury report came out, two things happened. The Rams went from 4.5 point favorites to 8.5 point favorites. And then the over under the number dropped 4 points from 47.5 to 43.5. So what I'm looking at in this game is, first of all, it is still a division rivalry, right? So these guys are playing each other, uh, with 4 days rest, and not a long way to travel for the Niners, right? Going down to LA at SoFi. But nonetheless, the Niners are going to have to run the ball to have success, right? I don't think that Sky Moore is going to light it up with 2 touchdowns and 100 passing yards. I mean, I could be wrong, right? He's more of a special teams guy. And so if the Niners play to their script and they stick to running the ball and they can control the clock, and I think you can run the ball against this Rams defense, you're going to see us leaning more towards this under, right? So that's why the first pick is I expect both teams to run the ball. And I expect that like under 49.5, if we tease this thing, this line is going to go down. One of two things is going to happen here. If the Rams score early and go off to a big lead, this can end up being a little bit like this Denver Broncos game that we saw on Monday Night Football, where they jump up to a big lead and the Bengals weren't able to score at all, right? So like what the score ended up being like 27-3 or something. And then your under hits, and then in this particular case, the Rams would cover. But if that happens, we still have the chance of the garbage time touchdown. And Mac Jones has impressed me. So he's actually been really, really accurate. Hasn't made too many mistakes. So I kind of like the backdoor cover as a possibility. If the Niners can keep this thing close, if the defense can keep it close and run the ball and keep it, within a touchdown going into the fourth quarter, then this can end up being like a 20-17 type game, or even a 20-13 game where the Rams win at the end. But in both cases, I don't really see more than 40, 41, 42 points scored in this game. And so that's why I really love that under. And then, I mean, we're at 8.5, like 14.5. You're going to give me 2 touchdowns in a division rivalry, and the Niners are still 3-1, right? So I'm also fading the Rams offense on a short week. Puka Nacua has been the story, right, so far. Niners secondary is legit. No Nick Bosa, right? So to put some pressure on that Rams offense and on Stafford. But that being said, I like that secondary to kind of make that field a little bit shorter, and put some more middle linebacker type coverage. You'll see some cover 2 stuff to make sure that they don't get that deep touchdown like Atwell scored last week. So I like to fade the offense a little bit on a short week because the playbook is not going to be super original against this Niners defense. And I'm basically saying the Niners are going to cover 14.5, and we're going to go with the under. Let's see what our AI models predicted. It turns out that ChatGPT and Grok, and I ran the model earlier in the week. They had a much tighter game, but ChatGPT has the Rams at 27 and Niners at 17. Grok has the Rams at 28-17. So very, very close. Both Grok and ChatGPT are within a point of each other. And when I actually prompted the model, I specifically said, take into consideration the injuries. The Rams are pretty well clean. Like they're playing healthy as you're going to be in week 5. The San Francisco 49ers, unfortunately, are not. I have the Rams at 24, Niners at 16. So that 16 number is a bit of an odd number, but it's basically 1 touchdown, 3 field goals. Pinheiro, the new field goal kicker for the Niners, has been consistent. But we all have the same thing. We all have the Niners basically, under this 49.5 number. ChatGPT and Grok have it a little bit higher than me. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm right at 40 with this 24-14 16 score. I just think the Niners will have a hard time punching the ball into the end zone. They'll get close. They'll get in the red zone. They're going to take the points. They're going to run the clock. And this is the way they stay competitive. So the models all show the same thing. And again, take that to like 14 and a half points and take the under. Let's now move to the Sunday picks. Our first parlay of the week. We have the Cowboys who are going to New York and playing against the Jets. Extremely impressive display by the Cowboys against Green Bay. A game that they could have won, should have won. What goes into overtime, but Dak is playing great without CeeDee Lamb, right? So a good quarterback, if he has a little bit of time in the pocket, which he's had, and then they've got some depth at wide receiver, picking up Pickens, who becomes your WR1. And they were able to score some points. Now, this Jets defense we saw is vulnerable. Tua was able to expose them. I think that the Cowboys roll the Jets pretty easily, but a high-scoring affair. I think the Jets were able to post some impressive drives. Again, if it wasn't for the turnovers, they could have won that game. But I still think the Cowboys' offense is be too much for this Jets defense, and they're just a dismal team. We're going to ride the Cowboys' offensive momentum in this one and go with the Cowboys and lay the 2.5 points. Our next game, Baltimore Ravens. What can you say about the Ravens? Like, this team started off as a Super Bowl contender. They're now 1-3. Got absolutely destroyed against Kansas City. The Texans visit them, so Baltimore's at home. But talk about another team that's been absolutely decimated with injuries, including Lamar Jackson, who is questionable going into this game. And CJ Stroud showed some signs of life. You guys, have been watching me. You know that I'm a CJ Stroud fan. I like the Texans here to at least keep it really, really close and good chance to win on the road against this Baltimore Ravens team. And I got to tell you, if the Ravens go 1-4, there's a level of desperation at this juncture that needs to kick in. And I wanted to see more of a fight in Kansas City because they were really desperate last week. But nonetheless, this is where we are. And so given that situation, given the injury situation, given the fact that I didn't see too much fight, especially if Lamar Jackson's not healthy, this Texans defensive line is legit. You're going to see a lot of pressure on the quarterback, whoever that quarterback happens to be. I'll take the 3.5 points that Vegas has given us. I got the Texans, and I'm going to take the points. Field goal and a half is great. Not a crazy thing to moneyline this one as a side bet. Then the third game, we've got the Colts, who lost a tough game and expect Adonis Mitchell hopefully to bounce back up. Great young quarterback. Like, at the end of the day, you got two quarterbacks. Interesting for me, I actually have both these quarterbacks on my fantasy team. I got Geno Smith and I've got Danny Dimes. I expect the Colts to come back home, and I expect them to bounce back after this. Really unfortunate loss, and a game that they really should have won on the road against the Rams. Colts are 6.5 point favorites, so just under a touchdown. I'll take it. I think they win by 7 or 8. It's going to be close, but the one stat that I saw that really, really jumped out for me was that Geno Smith actually has more interceptions than touchdowns this year. He has not clicked with these young wide receivers yet. And this Colts defense is legit. So I expect more turnovers. I expect the Colts to win the turnover battle. And it's really, really tough for the Raiders to go into Indy and try to turn things around for them. So take the Colts and lay the 6.5 points in that one. So let's move on to our afternoon slate. Afternoon slate here, we've got 4 games this weekend. We've got the Bucks. I love the Bucks, man. I think Tampa's a top 5 team. I would probably put them ahead of the Lions just because of the Lions defense being what it is. Like I said, tough loss to the Eagles. Man, they almost came back. They laid an egg in the first half, kept the Eagles to 0 passing yards in the second half. at home. Like the Eagles in their home stadium could not get one completed pass. Gives you an idea of how good this Bucks team was. They just got off to a wrong start. Now they're traveling to Seattle, so two tough road games, but and Seattle's been pretty good. But that being said, I still think that there's a completeness with this Tampa Bay team that I just quite haven't seen yet with the Seahawks. And there's a maturity with this team. They'll be able to handle the atmosphere. Baker Mayfield will be fine in Seattle. I'm going to lay the 3.5 points and take the Bucks in the early game. Then we've got the Washington Commanders, playing against the Chargers on the road, and Jaden Daniels has actually been confirmed that he will be playing. So that's changed. I got this news today right before I went live. Does that change things? Possibly. I'll keep a look on the line. But at the end of the day, Chargers are a good team. And, this is a bounce back opportunity for them. I expect them to come back home, regroup, and have Herbert, who had a terrible, terrible game last weekend, just to bounce back. So this is a great bounce back position. Chargers at home. Less than a field goal, yes. And then that line may have actually changed. I'll keep an eye on it with Jaden Daniels now being confirmed not like to be playing. It might even drop to 1.5 or half a point or a pick 'em. So keep an eye on that. I like the Chargers to win outright by more than a field goal. And then the last game of our third leg of our parlay, Lions minus 9.5. I mean, the Bengals are one of these teams that I was shocked we're not in the bottom 5 in the USA Today rankings. Um, got absolutely decimated. They can't put any points up, and they got crushed against Denver, which I would say is like mediocre offense, right? Bo Nix, they've got a couple of weapons here and there. But the biggest problem for me with the Bengals is despite the fact that you've got two of the best wide receivers in the NFL with Jamar Chase and with T. Higgins, uh, just cannot muster any offense, right? This offensive line is so bad. And it makes you realize how good Joe Burrow is, right? So it's really unfortunate, but the NFL, in the NFL, if you do not have an offensive line, it's going to be really, really tough. And they play the Lions, who have the best offense in the NFL. They just post points. They can beat you so many different ways in the air. Two great running backs, great tight end. Their defense isn't great, but I don't know. I just don't have any confidence that the Bengals can post any points. So this is a nice opportunity for the Lions to kind of, get some decent, like win a lopsided game. This has got like a 35-6 type outcome. They cover 9.5 easily. I would, if it goes to 2 touchdowns, I would take the Lions in this one, even though they're in Cincinnati, even though they're on the road. That's how bad the Bengals are. I've got the Bengals, right in there in the same category right now as the Saints and the Titans. So let's go to Sunday Night Football next. We have an AFC East rivalry game between the Buffalo Bills, who are ranked number 2 according to USA Today, and the New England Patriots. Vrabel-led team. You're going to see this team improve. You're going to see ups and downs with Drake May, performing on and off. So Pats at home, Sunday Night Football, AFC East rivalry. The Bills are just too good. I mean, they're just too good. Right now, we've got the Pats at plus 7.5 at home. There's two ways. I kind of like went back and forth on this one, and thought, okay, is it possible that the Pats can keep it close, and if we tease them to 13.5, can they keep it within 2 touchdowns? And then the flip side of that is, can the Bills, if we give them 6 points and you go to 1.5 because under a touch, under a field goal, what are the most likely outcomes? Well, the Bills are going to win this game, right? Like there's no ifs, and or buts about that. they're just too good, and the Pats just aren't there yet. Pats will get better as the season progresses, but they're not good enough to beat the Bills. And I actually decided to go towards the Bills. The Bills blowing out the Pats by more than, 2 touchdowns is a bigger possibility than them losing the game to the Pats. Is really what it boils down to. So, um, Bills at -1.5. So, that field goal, in case it ends up being an AFC East, rivalry game, easy game. I also expect this to be a little bit tighter. The Patriots' success is directly related to their ability to run the ball, and the Bills are not great against the run. So I expect this to be a grind of a game, and this is the one area where the Bills need to really improve upon. But it doesn't really matter because they got Josh Allen. And he'll put on the cape if he needs to with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter and do what he's got to do. Kind of like what he did with if you look at the Miami Dolphins Bills game a couple of weeks ago, that is the script for the Pats. And so that being said, I still like over 43.5 points, just because both teams will be able to score on each other. And I like the Bills at -1.5. So we're going to run with that. Let's go to Monday Night Football. Jaguars coming off a very impressive win against the Niners on the road. Right here. And look, they beat a Niners team that was decimated with injuries, and it was clear they got no pressure on Trevor Lawrence whatsoever. And so with Trey Law, having time in the pocket, he was able to complete some passes. But despite that, the Niners kept it close. Purdy made some terrible mistakes in the game. Jags defense was able to pull off a win. They go back home riding a little bit of a high, but the Kansas City Chiefs are rolling right now. They got those crazy games out of the way. The Brazil game, playing against the Ravens last week at home, very impressive against the Ravens. That was like a no-brainer. The Chiefs are also getting healthier, more offensive weapons available to Pat Mahomes. And they are 3.5-point favorites on the road against the Jags. We're going to tease that down to +2.5. And I like the over in this one too. So Chiefs +2.5 because they're absolutely going to win this game. Like no ifs, and or buts. Over 39.5. So we can see a little bit of a show for Monday Night Football. I wouldn't be surprised if Kelsey gets a touchdown in this game. Coming on the heels of Taylor Swift's album dropping tomorrow and all the fuss. I'm sure there's will be more than one reference to Kelsey on this album. So Taylor Swift factor, Chiefs momentum, Jags a little bit of a letdown after a big win. My prediction is that the Chiefs cover. Feel really, really good about this one. And then that over hits, both teams will be able to score some points. So let's take a look at the at the summary for this week, and really what I focused on was, you got to take a look at these injuries, right? Injuries are piling up, and I'm looking at the Niners, and I was balancing the injury. I think there's too much of a shift. 8.5. I saw even 9 points dogs for the Niners against the Rams in a division rivalry game, and then the Rams won last week in a game they really should have lost against the Colts. Again, I keep going on that one play. So I think the Rams are a little bit too high, and I think people are overreacting to this injury. This is still a Kyle Shanahan team, managed team, coach team. I'm going to ride the momentum of teams like the Chiefs, who are rolling right now, and we're probably going to see us play the Chiefs more and more. I think 3.5 is a joke. They probably should have been 5.5, even 6.5 favorites against the Jags. But again, because the Jags beat the Niners, you're taking advantage of that. So take the points there. And then the Colts bouncing back at home. So those are like the three main trends that I looked at to focus on. And so our summary: Rams in the under for tonight. I'm sorry, this is not Rams in the under. I need to fix that. Niners in the under in a teaser. That gets us to 14.5. The Cowboys, Texans, and the Colts in our first parlay. The Bucks, Chargers, and Lions in our second parlay. Bills in an over teaser on Sunday Night Football against the Patriots. And then the Chiefs in the under in a Sorry, Chiefs in the over in another typo. I apologize. Chiefs in the over in a teaser for Monday Night Football. I'll fix this for next week, so you guys don't have to worry about that. So that being said, that is gonna wrap us up for this week's edition of Pepe's Parlay. Just a quick reminder: if you do listen to us and you do make money and you do want to give back, hit that tip button. Everything that we get as a donation will be donated to the Let Them Play Foundation run by the Burns family. LTP um, collects money and offers grants to sports teams that in disadvantaged areas. They've done things like, provided baseballs and catchers equipment for baseball teams in Oakland that had their equipment stolen. Helping buying batting machines, in areas where they wouldn't have, hitting cages, all that good stuff. So, uniforms for teams that are out there. LTP is all about getting kids off of their screens and out in the field and playing. So, every donation that you make will go 100% to the LTP Foundation. So hit that tip button if you participate. And if you enjoyed the show, and even if you're not betting and we drop some nuggets and you want to donate to LTP, please go ahead and do that. And so thank you so much for watching and for listening. This show is available for you both on No Filter, obviously. We'll try to do these shows Wednesdays and Thursdays. You can go back and watch the shows once they've been posted. And also available on our YouTube channel, on No Filter's YouTube channel, if you want to go back, if you prefer watching it that way. Thanks again for joining us. Enjoy week 5 of the NFL. Go Niners. By the way, if Shanahan pulls this off, it'll be, another W that'll seal his legacy. Don't rule them out. Expect a close game tonight, close, low-scoring game between the Rams and the Niners. And then to everyone in Miami, fins up, baby. Let's see if we can ride Waddle and Waller into a second victory this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week.